What is going on, everybody? I'm on my first of about 8 days off in a row, got a nice little vacation to myself, so I'll be working on videos that I promised a long time ago that I'd be making, now that I have a nice extended period of days off, which I have not had in a while. So anyways, let's get on today's topic. Well, I'm actually going to be making multiple Switch videos over the next couple of days, and the one I want to talk about right now is the idea that the dock for the Switch could add power to the system. Now, we saw Nintendo's patent for the supplemental computing device a while ago. We'll get into that a little later. But what we do know so far is the fact that the Switch, all of the power and guts for it are inside the handheld component itself, and the dock simply is a method of delivering power and an HDMI signal to a TV. So if that's the case, how can the dock actually supply extra power to the Switch? Well, I want to show something. Take a look at the top side of the Switch here. Notice those vents? This is an active-cooled system. Passively cooled handheld systems don't have air vents in them. However, if something gets warm enough that it has to run fans on the go on battery, and even the fact that it has to run fans to begin with on the battery means that it's gonna totally wreck battery life. So why would this thing that's supposed to be, able to go on the go, have active cooling to begin with? Well, here's what I think. Take a look at every single gaming laptop on the planet, and even some non-gaming laptops. When you have the thing plugged in, all of a sudden AMD's turbocharging and Intel's turbo boost, or whatever their terms are, turns on, and the processors and graphics cards clock way higher than they are at normal base clocks. However, when you unplug these laptops, you pretty much can't game on them or do anything because it underclocks to the point where the hardware is much weaker. Then that's to save battery and make less heat on the go. So here's what I think is going to happen. You plug the Switch into the dock, and what it does is it massively overclocks the system on a chip that is inside the Switch to the point where the active cooling can turn on and supply extra power. So basically that active cooling there is for when the system on a chip is massively overclocked, which it can be because it's an NVIDIA system on a chip and it's very scalable. When that's massively overclocked, that produces a lot more heat than what a mobile chip is normally able to, handle properly in a device. So the active cooling in the vent you see on the top turns on, and the system gets a nice power boost. When it's unplugged from the dock, it only has to render in a maximum resolution of 720p, and they can lower the graphics settings on the fly. So you unplug the thing from the dock, and all of a sudden the active cooling turns off, and the system underclocks back down to its base clocks, and doesn't run too hot, and is able to go on the go without the active cooling needed. Now, we know the battery life is still not too amazing on the system, but having a super hot chip to the point where it needs active cooling would wreck the battery life even more. What's funny to talk about is that Bethesda said that they would not work on the Nintendo NX unless it is at least on Xbox One's power level. Now, we just got confirmation that Bethesda's working on Nintendo NX games, Nintendo Switch games. So this thing's got to at least be near Xbox One level, at least when it's inside the dock. So that's how the dock can supply extra graphical power to the system without actually needing to have any hardware inside it to begin with. But what about that supplemental computing device that Nintendo patented a while back? Now, what this could be is most likely just a patent they filed just so they could have it, because Nintendo does that a lot. They file a lot of patents that they never ever use just so, one, if they ever do use it, they already have the patent for it, and two, if someone else uses it, they can get some licensing fees off of that. But what if the supplemental computing device was something that the NX could actually use? All that would be, and this is very anti-Nintendo, this is not something they would do, but we've been seeing that they've been changing. And also, by the way, this is something that we, haven't seen succeed when it's done before. Like, look at the Sega CD and 32X. But all they would have to do is replace the dock with almost like the bottom half of the higher-end Surface Books. So the supplemental computing device could be a new dock, like you could keep your base unit, but it could be a new dock that actually does supply extra graphical power to the system. Take a look at the Surface Book. The higher-end Surface Books have an NVIDIA GPU in the keyboard portion of the device, but the rest of the computer is inside the top portion, which has an Intel processor and, Intel's integrated graphics. When you plug the keyboard portion into the Surface Book, you get that extra graphical boost because of what's inside the keyboard portion. Now, everyone knows that NVIDIA has that technology called SLI, which lets you link two graphics cards together. So what this supplemental computing device could do is it could add, first of all, it could add a whole new system on a chip that completely, replaces the one that's inside the actual the actual Switch handheld device itself, and that could take over for when it's plugged into the TV while you still have the same, Tegra system on a chip when the thing's in the portable mode. But what it could also do is add a second GPU that's the same as the one that's already built into the Switch and give us like an SLI type of setup that gives extra graphical boost. I don't think that this supplemental computing device is actually going to be used because, as I said, anytime this stuff has been done in the past, it has not been very successful. But I do think that the dock will add power because an Xbox One and a portable with the power of the Xbox One would cost quite a bit of money, but a portable with power maybe around like 3 to 4 times the Wii U power, but then you plug it into a dock and it overclocks and then turns on active cooling, which is just fans for that matter, and that brings it up to Xbox One level. That's totally plausible. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments.